All right. Welcome all to this very first episode of the podcast, monthly podcast we host for the teaching project, an European project regarding machine learning, AI, and something we will discuss today with Davide Bacciu, the project coordinator. So, hi, Davide. Welcome.
Hi. Welcome everybody, and thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. So we will have like a very informal talk and I mean discussion, an interview about the state of the art of the project, what it is all about, and all the interesting aspects that are related to this very interesting project that Davide is leading essentially at the European level and involving multiple partners. So. Davide is an associate professor at the Department of Computer Science at the University of Pisa, and his research interest revolves around machine learning and artificial intelligence. Since 2005, he has been involved as a leading researcher, principal investigator in a number of national, international, and industrial research projects. He has received the 2009 Cainiello Award for the best Italian PhD thesis on neural networks, and was even nominated for the Italian Association for Artificial Intelligence Marco Cadoli PhD Award in 2009. Now he is the project coordinator of the H2020 teaching project, the project we're going to discuss today, as well as of Italian National and Industrial Project, as we said before. And he serves also editor of IEEE Transactions on Neural Networks and Learning Systems, and as an academic editor for PLOS ONE. He's an IEEE senior member and a member of the IEEE Neural Networks Technical Committee. He is the president and member of the executive committee of the EMT Lucca Alumni and Students Association, and is also a board member of the Italian Association for Artificial Intelligence since 2015. So thank you so much again, Davide, for being with us today and opening this line of interviews that we have already in place and set up for discussing the teaching project. So let's start with the very first question. What is teaching and what's your role into the project?
Well, thank you. First of all, teaching is a European project. Is a European project from the H2020 research framework. So basically, this is the 7-year program that European community uses to fund research at every level in the European countries. That has just ended, but clearly project that started last year are going to be lasting for a couple of years. And we are now in the new framework that is just about to start. So we were one of the last projects to start in the previous framework. And teaching is a research and innovation action project. It means that it is a highly experimental research project, which is pushing towards new frontiers in terms of methodology. In this case, we're talking about computer science, artificial intelligence, computing, and computing system, but it is also a nature of being an applied project, because we not only push the boundaries of knowledge, but we also push the boundaries of industry, industrial applications, and practical implications of what we do. So what is teaching? Teaching is, first thing, a consortium of 10 partners spread around 5 beautiful countries in Europe, which at some point we will be able to visit. Usually this kind of project, as many people might know, are fun, nice, interesting, and also include a good deal of getting together and working together side by side, which is something that COVID-19 unfortunately is not allowing us to do very, very well. But I'm confident that things will get better. So we have 10 partners. An heavy presence of Italian partners, both on the academic side as well as in the industrial side. And we have good presence of Greek partners, we have German partners, we have Austrian partners, and we have French partners in this consortium. And we are a nice and a nice trade-off between research organization. There are 4 of us that are research organization, university or research centers, and 6 among small, medium enterprises and large enterprises. So this is really to give the idea of the balance between fundamental research and implication and application of the projects onto the market and the industry. And well, all in all, this is the structure of the teaching project, but you might want to be knowing more about what teaching is about.
Yeah, exactly.
So teaching is fundamentally about developing a new concept and new methodologies for computing, specifically thinking about supporting autonomous applications. So here we are talking about a word, the word in which we are sitting, in which we are increasingly working towards having software that takes decisions, that operates in a seemingly autonomous way. So interacting with a human, but without being controlled by the human. So what we are doing as part of this project is developing the fabric, the computational fabric, the concepts that will allow this kind of autonomous interaction with applications to be safe, to be secure, to be, let's say, energy efficient, among the other things.
Oh, well, and I also noticed that there is this notion somehow within all the project of trying to put the human within the loop of these, let's say, autonomous functionalities that this project would enable.
Exactly. This is a key point of the project, and is actually a key word in the teaching. The human is the main factor that we would like to consider. The fact that whenever we have these autonomous applications interacting, this autonomous application that might be, of course, interacting one another, so virtual agent interacting with virtual agents. But what we care about in this project is that these autonomous applications are more often than ever interacting with the humans. And this has consequences, especially if these applications, like in the case studies from teaching, are not only virtual applications, but they might be embodied. So their actions, their decisions have actually an impact on the physical world. So, and in the physical world, we have humans. So we need to be careful. We need to be respectful of the human who's in the loop of the decisions taken by these autonomous applications. And in fact, the kind of, let's say, ICT system, the kind of information and communication technology we're dealing with are this called cyber-physical systems of systems. They are cyber-physical because here we deal with entities that exist both on the virtual world, the cyber world, so software, but they also exist in the physical world. And they exist in the physical world through devices that read information from the physical world. We're talking about sensors, we are talking about computing system in general, but they can also act on the physical world. There can be robot platforms that moves, that actuate in the real world, and we don't even have to think about Asimov scenarios with robots running in the city. Here we are talking about robots that are surrounding us, autonomous driving cars, or let's say assisted cars driven through assistance from software. So that is the kind of system we are talking about. Systems that are fairly articulated. They have sensory capabilities in the physical world. They have computing capabilities deployed in the physical world. They have actuation capability deployed in the physical world. And there are applications running on the top of this system that it's by definition distributed. It's not concentrated into a single device and everything runs there. No, we are talking about a system that surrounds us, a system that is made of the car in which we are traveling, and the car itself is made of thousands of sensors, computing devices. But that car interacts with other cars, which interacts with other cars and interact with the roadside infrastructure, with the temperature sensor, whatever spread into the environment. So we would like to develop all the necessary middleware, all the necessary enabling technologies to allow to develop application for such a challenging, articulated, distributed ICT scenario that allow applications to run in this distributed environment, to interact with the human in a safe and respectful way.
Wow, this is a very interesting, I think, project that it's something that I never see before, at least in this grand vision, because maybe you can find many different European projects that work on vertical use cases, on practical applications, but it's very difficult to find a single project that would somehow take, let's say, a step back and look at the problem like as a holistic approach. Like, for example, trying to see these different levels of hardware support, this idea of distributed system, but at the same time looking at the importance of preserving the interaction, a rightful interaction with the humans in the loop. And I think this is very interesting to point out and to stress out. And so thank you, Davide, for your overview about the project. And maybe just a more specific question. So what's your role into all of this? And also maybe some hints about the timelines of the project.
Oh, sure. Well, my role is that of the coordinator, which basically means that I'm the one with the whip, and making sure that making sure, trying my best to ensure that this project runs smoothly and reaches in the end these very, very, let's say, articulated, complicated goals that we set ourselves. We set ourselves those goals, and we were happy when we did that, and we are thrilled about the fact that we are actually developing the system towards achieving those goals. But it's a complicated endeavor, which requires coordination of many people, different, as you said, we took a step back and look at the problem from a wide perspective, which means that our consortium is made of people with considerably different competencies, because we put together people who are AI expert, because you can't create a respectful, let's say, effective autonomous application if you don't have artificial intelligent technologies to support the applications. You can't create a safe interaction with an autonomous software which is physically enabled if you don't have experts of safety, of dependability engineering, which can study the system as a whole and tell you how to develop your system in such a way that this application is reliable and is safe for the human, is secure. It's also cyber secure, because we are dealing with information that might be very private of the human. And so we would like also to be cyber secure, to be not exposed easily to cyber attacks. And at the same time, we also need expertise from people that know really how to develop computing solutions, how to develop the next generation of communication solution in order to enable these applications to run smoothly across this distributed environment, devices of completely heterogeneous nature, communication system of and protocols of completely different nature. And of course, we need people who have their hands on challenging use cases. Otherwise, we can't prove how good it is, the work that we are doing. So my whole role into this thing is to keep this complexity much as possible under control, which is probably the main role of a coordinator, apart from, of course, acting as the point of contact between the European community and the partners of the consortium, clearly. And it's a job that I'm enjoying pretty much, despite the complexity.
I'm glad to hear that. And so about the timeline instead?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, the timeline, it's a good point. We started in a very nice period, January 2020. So the kickoff of this project was late January 2020. And we were all happy. We met in Brussels. We have a fantastic first 2 days of meeting and joining and getting together, and presentation towards the European community as well to introduce ourselves. And then COVID came. And,
right, a month or two after.
Exactly. And that is when everything moved on on the virtual, but we're still working virtual, but we are doing good. And the project is going to be running officially. Well, initially the project was meant to be running for 3 years, and I would be lying if COVID hadn't affected the project. So what we are doing is clearly we are considering, together with the European community, extending the duration of the project. So ideally, the timeline of the project will make sure that the project can achieve its objective within a couple of years from now. So we started in January 2020, and we are planning to conclude and achieve the goals of the project within year 2023, something around that. And we already succeeded in our first review of our progress that we had a couple of months ago. We are having now a technical review by the end of the year, in which we're going to be presenting our first outcomes of software, all the first developments that are being produced by the project, and then we're going to be speeding up throughout the final year and a half of the project to produce all the impacting applications that we promised.
Yeah, great. And about these in particular, so can you give us an overview of the current efforts and the already achieved results? And also, if you can add something about what you plan to release after the end of the project. So what will end in the hands of the European citizens, essentially?
Good point. You should be working for the EC. So, okay. Currently, what we have gone to, the things that we have developed so far are mostly the, let's say, architecture and the methodologies of the systems that we are developing within teaching. So the first year of the project, like it happens often with these, research and innovation actions, is fully devoted to studying the characteristics of the problem and to study what solutions are available, typically few, and to design the solution from that is proposed by the project. So right now we are to the point in which we have completed the design phase of the project. We know exactly the architecture that is being developed, software and computing architecture that is being developed. We know the components of the software that we are developing, how they interact with each other, how they were going to speak with each other, how somebody is expected to be using the product that we are creating as part of the project. So this is something that was fully completed by the end of year one of the project. And since we are now over a year from the project, we have also entered the phase, the so-called development phase, in which we're actually transforming this design into something that runs, into code that runs. And currently, we are to the point in which we are closing the first phase of the development. We have a first, what is so-called mock-up of the system. So we are creating a first, let's say, complete software implementation of the architecture that we proposed, with some relevant functionalities already implemented for the different dimensions of the project that we have. So we have some functionalities that pertains to the artificial intelligence services that are being developed inside of the project that are ready. We do have a first analysis of the dependability engineering methods that we need in order to develop in a system that is safe and secure and cyber secure. And we also developed all the necessary computing and communication protocols and the components that support execution of the application. And we are now integrating all these components that you need to imagine that these kind of projects are fairly articulated once we develop the different components, software components, subsystem of this project in different work packages, in different localities, geographical localities in the world, and then we integrate this functionality. So what we are doing now, we do have a full work package, so a full activity within the project that is dealing with the integration of these let's say, different components, different systems that have been developed, not in isolation, but atomically. And the objective is clearly to release the integrated mock-up by right after summer. So we will be ready to go with the when fall comes. And now I forgot about the second part of the question because I got carried up.
No, I mean, what's interesting, I think, is what these results and whatever you produce with this project, what's in the end enabling, let's say, not only the result of products or insights and research papers that you're gonna obviously release, but what would this project enable in terms of applications, future use cases, and maybe new business ventures and things like that?
Yes, right. So I think the first thing we need to consider is that these technologies that we are developing are meant, as I said, to support whoever in the future is going to be developing autonomous applications. So we need, first of all, to understand what are these autonomous applications that can have a substantial impact on people, because those are those that can leverage at most in the most impactful way our results. And what we have in mind when we think about this kind of impact is, first of all, autonomous transportation. We believe that the concepts that we are developing here will be fundamental for the next generation of autonomous transportation. And this is a key area for Europe. Europe, as you know, it's a major producer of cars. And the automotive domain is heavily moving towards electrification, towards autonomous transportation, or transportation and cars that are helped by technology in their driving.
Smart mobility. I hear this keyword a lot.
Exactly. So where I do expect this project to make heavy impact is on those industries that need to develop autonomous application, that are going to be in need of techniques that allow them to deliver technologies that are safe, technologies that are secure, even technologies that are green, because we're going to be running everything on battery. And we need to be also careful of the environment. We have, and this is one of the major points also from the plans of the European community, we need to be very respectful in our use of AI, not only of the human, but also of the planet. One of the key things inside of teaching is also the fact that we are not assuming that this artificial intelligence needs to have Google's, Facebook, Microsoft, for what matters, clouds, data centers, in order to be trained, in order to be run. We should be thinking at an AI that is respectful for the human and respectful for the environment, meaning that can be run with the minimal energy consumption, that can be trained with the minimal energy consumption. So what we're developing is also technologies that will allow that will allow running AI on devices which consumes less battery, less power, so less pollution for the environment. Train those models continuously in order to avoid to retrain them from scratch all the time, polluting the environment just because we need to refresh our predictive model. And so we are developing ad hoc, for instance, AI, machine learning technologies, which can provide this kind of tools. We are speaking about, just to name a few of keywords, federated learning. We are speaking about continual or lifelong learning. But we are also, of course, developing techniques that allow to keep these learning models that live into this tiny product, these tiny devices, also protected from a privacy perspective, from a security perspective. So we are also creating shields around these models in order to prevent leakage, for instance, of information from the
personal data, yeah.
Personal data, of course. And if you want to say another application which I find particularly important for the technology that we're developing in teaching is smart industries, intelligent factories. That is an environment in which already now, but more and more in the future, robots and humans will interact. And I don't know whether you have ever experienced an interaction with a robot. A robot can be scary. A robot can be stressful. Interacting and building things with the help of the robot can be a relief from the physical perspective, because the robot can perform heavy duty, but the robot that doesn't respect the reaction of the human, the feeling of the human, the fact that the human, after 6 or 7 hours of working, might be tired, it's a risk. That's what we're attempting to do. We're attempting to deliver technology which can mine on the state of the human that is interacting with this autonomous system that is, in particular cases, a particularly embodied system because it is a robot, and regulate the behavior of the robot, regulate how a robot behaves and executes its actions autonomously based on the level of stress, on the level of fatigue of the human, and help the robot co-work really in a respectful way with the human.
Yeah, this is absolutely a crucial point for the future of robotics and AI, I guess, in the industry 4.0. And yes, it is true that we know and we hear a lot of times in which there are accidents on the workplace, especially using this big machinery that almost any industry now are using for developing their own products. So yes, that is totally something that we should do. We should look more in depth, and I'm very happy to hear that this is one of the main focus of the teaching project. So I was just curious to also hear a few more thoughts about how you made you actually let's say overcome the issues imposed by the COVID pandemic. So this idea that every European project and actually every industry and job had to face somehow during the last year. And so I think it would be useful for the people hearing us today. And I remind everyone that essentially this is a live episode, so anyone can comment and maybe ask questions to David and the follow up, let's say, speakers that we're going to hear in the next episodes. But yes, I was interested in knowing if you had some insights that you would like to share with the other project coordinators or people that are into research that are finding themselves even like being less productive or in a not very nice spot in trying to collaborate more with their peers.
Yeah, that's a tough question, because basically we were hit by this pandemic, meaning that we didn't have policies or use case scenarios to rely on, best practices to rely on. So we made them. We made those as by experimenting with those. So I don't know whether I can make a rule out of what we did. Honestly speaking, I'd say that we, as a project, we did quite well. And the fact of doing quite well is mostly due, if I have to be honest, to the sheer lack of having a consortium of people who are serious workers and who are probably by their background very used to work through online tools, work on collective development. That helped incredibly. So that is the lucky part. What can you take out of this lucky part as a future lesson for the future is that you should be probably teaching people online collaboration, online development, if we talk about computer scientists. So collective development of software, it's something that should be taught because it's helpful even if there is no pandemic. In general, it's something that is useful for the professional life and also for other kinds of initiatives. I'm thinking about being a programmer who wants to contribute to pro bono initiatives in which articulated software systems are developed on a crowd basis. So this is a kind of a skill that I think should be taught, should be available to everybody that is doing development. It helped us a lot, honestly.
Absolutely. So thanks for this tip, Davide. And I think we can now almost close this episode with one last question that I wanted to ask you. And essentially, this is all based on the future, let's say, of this project or this line of work. Because as you said, now we're foreseeing, let's say, a new work plan for the research in Europe, and we know that Europe is investing a lot in AI. At least this is what um, Europe says would like to do. And we know that in United States, in China, and the rest of the world in general, the um, funding for AI and AI related projects is growing. So I was interested to know your perspective on this idea of um, taking, let's say, the next and future, let's say, challenges in AI in Europe, and if you think there are like some openings, some interesting, specific fields or use cases, applications that would enable Europe to compete better, maybe also on the worldwide, let's say, competition.
Hmm. So Europe is taken a clear direction, very much debated, but it's taken a clear direction of what should be the European way towards artificial intelligence. Again, it's debated, but the direction is set and it's clear. And there are a couple of pillars that Europe has built, upon which Europe wants to build AI. One of that is human in the loop, human in the center. An AI that is respectful, an AI that is built around the human, an AI that is safe for the human. And this is absolutely central with the work that we are doing in teaching, and we are very lucky about that. And that means that clearly funds are going to go in that direction. If we're talking about future developments, that means that Europe will invest both on legislation in that direction, but also in terms of developing methodology and technology that supports that idea of artificial intelligence. Another pillar that is fundamental is edge AI and AI respectful for the planet. Because again, Europe has understood that the way we are developing AI systems is not safe for the planet. So we need to add towards an AI that is more respectful, that uses less computational power. And I mean, this is not only a question of being respectful towards the planet. Europe has recognized the fact that in Europe we do have excellence in, rather than in general processors and processing power for computer GPUs, we have excellence in creating ad hoc hardware, in creating microchips for specific operation rather than general purpose. So what Europe is now asking to the industry and to the researchers is to develop hardware and also the software and the mathematical model and the methodology that enable to run artificial intelligence on hardware, the so-called neuromorphic hardware, something that allows AI to become connected with the computing fabric as much as possible, because by that means we achieve an artificial intelligence that consumes less, that is more green, and that is more effective. And that brings along a whole set of important things, because as soon as you have it embedded on a specific chip, then that AI is on the edge. So it is distributed in all the devices spread around the environment. So the concept of edge AI are going to be important. And everything that goes with edge AI. So the capability of being able to perform learning on the edge, for instance, not only inference. And these likely are other topics that are fairly central in teaching. So I'm extremely happy about having read those items in the program from Europe. And all in all, let me conclude by saying that this old concept of AI in my mind and in the mind of a friend of mine, we founded a laboratory, what is called Pervasive AI Laboratory, which is a joint initiative from University of Pisa and the National Research Council in Italy, is revolving around these concepts, around the fact that the future of AI is AI as a pervasive technology, is AI as not as a monolithic system, but rather as a system that is distributed in the environment, is distributed on the edge, it's performing its prediction in all the devices. And for that reason, we need to develop the next generation of AI that can run on those devices, but at the same time, from a different perspective, we need to develop the computing technology, the hardware technology, the communication technology that allows that kind of pervasiveness to be implemented and to create applications, to create technology, and to create products around this new concept.
Wow, absolutely. And yes, I really like this idea of seeing AI and making AI as pervasive as computation itself. So essentially, this idea that if we can compute something on a specific device, and then why not making like smart, like intelligent in his own way, and interact with the rest of the world, like humans and other objects around it. So I really like this idea that in the future we may have objects around us that are smart and that are able to recognize what is our intent, and dialogate somehow with us and the other objects around them in a way that makes life easier, I guess, and also respectful to the environment and all these values that we share, I guess, as the European society, the European community. And so I'm very glad to hear that teaching is helping out in this sense, is putting there, I guess, the first milestones towards this huge goal, this grand goal that we are trying to pursue, all of us, I guess, as researchers and enthusiasts working in Europe on AI and machine learning. So thank you so much, Davide, for staying with us and for your interview. I think it was a great first episode for this series. So I invite all the people that are going to watch this on YouTube to subscribe to the channel and to give us a thumb up, and stay tuned for the next episode. So thank you for all the partners, all the people that are involved with teaching, and the European Commission as well, for allowing us to produce these dissemination activities and to work on the project itself. And I'll see you next time, guys. So thank you so much and have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.